Mara Voss was 23 years old when the man she loved destroyed her in front of 200 people. She did not cry. She had promised herself that much. The blood moon ceremony was held in the great clearing behind the coal pack house. Lanterns hung from the oak trees. White flowers covered every table. Mara had ordered those flowers herself 3 weeks earlier, when she still believed her life was going in one direction. She had carried the boxes in from the truck. She had arranged every single stem. She was standing near the back of the crowd when Darian Cole walked to the stone platform at the center of the clearing. He was tall and broad-shouldered, and he wore the black ceremonial coat that she had pressed for him that same morning. She remembered pressing it. She remembered the smell of the iron on the fabric, and the way she had hung it carefully on the door so it would not wrinkle. He did not look at her when he spoke. He took Celine Ashford's hand, delicate fingers, silver ring, perfect posture, and he said 4 words that the pack law required for an official unbinding. 4 words. 6 years, and 4 words. Mara felt it the moment he finished speaking. The bond between them snapped like a wire pulled too tight. It made a sound inside her chest that no one else could hear. A clean, high note. Then silence. Then nothing at all where something had lived for 6 years. She looked at the lanterns in the trees. She counted them. There were 14. She did not cry. Darian Cole was the son of the pack's most respected alpha family. He had been told since childhood that the Luna beside him would need to be a pureblood, someone whose lineage could not be questioned, whose children would carry the full strength of an unbroken line. Pack law did not require this. Tradition did, and in the Cole pack, tradition and law were the same thing. Mara was half-blood. Her mother had been human. Her father had been a mid-rank wolf with no title and no land, and he had died before Mara was old enough to remember his face. She had grown up on the eastern edge of Cole territory in a small house with a leaking roof and a grandmother who spoke in a dialect no one used anymore and kept journals in handwriting so small it looked like it belonged to birds. She had been a good member of the pack. She healed the wounded wolves when the pack doctor was unavailable. She trained the younger pups on Saturdays. She knew every family name, every territory boundary, every elder preference. She had done all of this for 6 years without a title and without complaint, because she had believed, in the specific, painful way of someone who has never been officially included, but has always been needed, that eventually the pack would see her. Darian had told her, once, that he was working on it, that the timing was not right, that the elders needed more time. She had believed him. She believed him all the way up until the moment he pressed Celine Ashford's fingers to his chest and sealed a new bond in front of the entire pack. She left before the ceremony finished. It was a 22-mile walk from the Cole pack house to the edge of their territory. She walked it in the dark without shifting, because shifting felt like surrendering something she was not ready to give up. She carried her medical kit on one shoulder and her grandmother's journals in a canvas bag on the other. She had packed both 2 days earlier, quietly, in the back of the wardrobe, in the particular way of someone who is hoping they will not need to use them and is preparing for the possibility that they will. The wolves on border patrol passed her twice. They did not stop her. She understood that they had been told not to. That was the last thing Darian Cole ever did for her, and she did not thank him for it. She walked until the trees changed, and the air smelled different, and she knew she was no longer on Cole land. She stopped walking. She stood in the dark for a while, listening to the forest. Then she kept going. The Ashvale Pack territory began where a wide river bent south. Mara had read about Cale Draven. Everyone in the surrounding packs had read about Cale Draven. He was rogue-born, which meant he had built his pack from nothing, from wolves who had no home territory and no alpha bloodline, and no one willing to vouch for them. He had spent 11 years building Ashvale from a collection of outcasts into one of the most stable packs in the region. The elder councils did not entirely respect him. The wolves under his care did not care what the elder councils thought. He was running the border watch himself when Mara arrived. This surprised her. Alphas did not usually run their own border watches. He looked at her the way you look at something unexpected that has not yet decided whether it is dangerous or not. She looked back at him the same way. He offered her a wage and a room. She accepted the wage. She took the room farthest from his. He did not comment on this. He showed her where the supply closet was, told her the pack healer had left 3 months ago, and the position was open if she wanted it, and left her alone. She wanted it. 3 months into her time at Ashvale, on a cold evening in early winter, Mara finally translated the last journal. Her grandmother had begun keeping the journals 40 years earlier, after her own mate bond had been dissolved by an alpha who had decided she was not convenient enough to keep. The grandmother had been half-blood too. Mara had not known this growing up. No one in the Cole pack had ever mentioned it, because the Cole pack found it easier to tolerate a woman than to explain where she came from. The final journal was different from the others. It was not a diary. It was a collection of healing rites, the oldest ones, the kind that predated formal pack law, the kind that required no alpha authorization, no bloodline certification, no council approval. They were rites that lived in the body, in the memory of the wolf, in the particular knowledge passed down through women who had been told they were not enough and had gone ahead and learned everything anyway. The last entry in the journal was written in her grandmother's smallest handwriting, in the oldest dialect, in ink that had faded almost to nothing. Mara held the page close to the lamp and read it slowly. It said, "I am leaving these for the one who needs them most. I expect she will not need to be told who she is." Mara sat with that sentence for a long time. Then she rolled up her sleeves and began. Word traveled the way it always did in pack territories, not through formal channels, but through the mouths of wolves who had been somewhere they were not supposed to be and seen something they did not expect to see. A pup from the Keld pack arrived at Ashvale with a curse wound in his shoulder that had not responded to any standard treatment. He had been to 3 different pack healers. He was 11 years old, and he was running a fever that had lasted 9 days. His mother carried him in her arms. Mara spent 6 hours with him. She used 3 of the grandmother's rites in combination, something no one had done before, because no one had known to combine them. The fever broke at midnight. The wound was clean by morning. The boy ate a full breakfast and asked if he could have seconds. His mother did not speak for a while when she saw him eating. Then she left, and took the story with her. A month after that, Mara sat down with the Keld Alpha and the Ashvale Council and negotiated a border agreement that 11 years of formal meetings had failed to produce. She did not negotiate it through legal language or pack protocol. She asked both sides what they actually needed, not what they were claiming, but what they needed, and she listened carefully, and she told them what she heard, and the thing that had seemed impossible became, in the space of 2 conversations, obvious. Cale Draven signed the treaty. He put her name on it beside his. The Keld Alpha looked at her name, and then at Cale. Cale looked back at him. The Keld Alpha signed the treaty. She had been at Ashvale for 8 months when Cale asked her, one evening on the porch, if she was staying. She told him she did not know yet. He nodded. He did not push. He poured her tea, and they sat in silence for a while, which was comfortable, in the way that silences are only comfortable with people you have stopped needing to perform for. He was not Darian Cole. He was not trying to be anything to her. He showed up at the border watch himself, because he did not believe in asking his wolves to do things he would not do. He learned the name of every wolf in his pack, and the names of their children, and their particular fears. He did not talk about his power. He exercised it quietly, the way strong people always do, and the people around him felt safer without being able to say exactly why. Mara noticed all of this the way you notice things you are not yet ready to name. She told him she thought she might stay a while longer. He said okay. 14 months after the rejection, Darian Cole heard her name at breakfast. One of his senior council members was speaking, casually, the way people speak about things that have already become established fact, about the Eastern Pact developments. He mentioned Luna Voss of Ashvale. He mentioned the border treaty. He mentioned that the Ashvale Pack had, in the past year, become the most sought-after ally on the eastern seaboard, because their Luna had connections that went beyond any single pack, and loyalties that no one had managed to buy or threaten. Darian set down his fork. Celine was sitting across from him. She was correct and quiet, and she fulfilled every obligation of the Luna role with a discipline that he respected and a distance that he had stopped trying to close. She had done nothing wrong. She had simply never been, in any room she entered, the person everyone turned toward. He did not finish his breakfast. The 5-pack summit came around every decade. This cycle, it was hosted by Ashvale. Mara arranged the seating. She put Darian 2 chairs from her own position at the main table. Not close enough for it to look like a message. Not far enough for it to look like avoidance. Exactly where a neutral guest would sit. He tried to speak to her privately twice during the 3-day summit. Both times, she was in a room full of people she was genuinely engaged with. The Keld Alpha's healer, a young wolf from the northern delegation, who was asking about the grandmother's rights. Kale's head of council, who was telling a story about a goat that had wandered into the treaty room during the signing, which was apparently a recurring problem. She laughed at the story about the goat. It was a real laugh. Darian stood at the edge of both rooms and watched her not look at him. On the last evening, he found her alone for approximately 45 seconds, near the water station in the corridor. He said her name. She looked at him. Her face was calm, not cold, not warm, simply the face of a woman who had already completed a chapter and was not going to reread it out of courtesy. She said it was good to see him doing well. Then someone called her name from the meeting room, and she excused herself and walked away, and she did not look back. And Darian Cole stood in the corridor holding an empty glass and understood, for the first time, what he had thrown away. On a Tuesday in late autumn, during a boundary walk in the rain, Mara reached over and took Kale's hand. He did not stop walking. He did not comment. He held her hand, and they walked the boundary line together in the rain. And it was not romantic the way stories make things romantic. It was quiet. It was 2 people who had each rebuilt themselves from difficult material choosing, without ceremony, to walk in the same direction. She thought about her grandmother's last journal entry while she walked. She thought about the small handwriting and the faded ink, and the woman who had hidden everything she knew, in a language almost no one could read anymore, for a granddaughter she would never meet, because she had understood that the right person would find it. She thought, I found it. The crisis that brought the 5-pack Elder Council together, 23 months after the Blood Moon ceremony, was a territorial conflict that had grown into something larger than any single alpha could manage. It involved contested land, a water source that 3 packs depended on, and a tension that had been building for long enough that everyone had stopped believing it could be resolved without significant loss. They requested Mara Voss by name. Not the Ashvale representative, not Kale Draven's Luna. Mara Voss. The woman who had walked out of coal territory with a medical kit and a canvas bag and built something that no one had seen coming. She sat at the head of the table because no one else could hold the room the way she could. She spent 3 days listening. She asked questions no one else had thought to ask. She found the thing underneath the conflict. Not the land, not the water, but the fear. The old wound, the thing that neither side had said out loud, because saying it would have required admitting they were afraid. And she named it gently, in the specific way of someone who has personally lived inside a wound for a long time and knows how to speak its language. The agreement was signed on the 4th day. She went home that evening. People would argue for years afterward about when exactly Mara Voss had become the most powerful Luna the world had ever seen. Some said it was the summit. Some said it was the border treaty. Some said it was the night she healed the boy with the curse wound, when his mother stood in the doorway and could not speak. Mara never offered an opinion on this. She knew the exact moment. It was 11:48 in the evening, 23 months ago, in a clearing full of lanterns and white flowers that she had arranged herself. 1 minute after the bond broke and the silence filled the place where something used to live. She had stood in that silence and made a decision. She was not going to spend her life being the story of what he did to her. She was going to be the story of what she did next. And she had been, every single day since, exactly that.